Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another installment here today, and I'm finally bringing it to you. I know it's taken a long time, but finally we have Death Shadow Grixis ready to roll here. I've been testing a lot of Jeskai recently, so I kind of put Grixis on the back burner, but seeing Grixis Shadow really evolve since the last time that I tried it has made me want to explore it a lot more. So let's talk about the deck a little. If some of you aren't familiar with the Death Shadow archetype, it revolves around this card here called Death Shadow, and it involves losing lots of life in order to create a 1 mana creature that is a 4/4/5/5 or higher. And this is just, a lot stronger. We think of Tarmogoyf as being one of the strongest creatures for its cost. It can sometimes be a 2 mana 5/6 or 6/7 or even 7/8 in some situations. But we don't realize that we actually have, a potential 7/7, 8/8, 9/9 creature for 1 mana in Modern. And I think the explosion of it really came about from a lot of like slower, uninteractive decks starting to pop up. And Death Shadow really beats on those decks because they have hand disruption in the form of Thoughtseize, Inquisition. They have a lot of cheap removal, and in general, a lot of easy ways to lose life and then get a quick turn 4, turn 5 kill. Sometimes even sooner, depending on how explosive your start is and against what deck you're playing and things like that. So in general, the main colors that Death Shadow usually resides in is Jund. At least that was the main breakout deck, and it involved using like Tarfire and Tarmogoyf and Mishra's Bauble in order to make Tarmogoyf strong. And then it also had all the life loss involved to get Death Shadow big, and then the hand disruption, the cheap removal, and the recursion with Kolaghan's Command, and then Traverse the Ulvenwald, of course. So Death Shadow Jund was a huge breakout deck, sometimes splashing white for Lingering Souls, I think most of the time, splashing white. And then we saw Death Shadow kind of evolve into something more. And people started exploring other colors. I saw Abzan the other day. I'm seeing Bug, green, blue, black, Death Shadow come about. But the other, I would say the second biggest color combination for Death Shadow is probably Grixis. And there's a main reason why, and we're going to talk about that today. In my opinion, I think first and foremost, the number one reason to play Grixis is going to be because of Snapcaster Mage. This card is just insanely powerful, especially when you combine it with a bunch of cheap removal and cheap hand discard. And if you have cheap clocks, to hit the opponent as you disrupt them, get the game over quick and done while still having some value engine in the game in your deck. Number two reason, in my opinion, is going to be the blue cantrips. So Death Shadow Jund doesn't get access to things like Serum Visions, Thought Scour. These are cheap blue mana, one blue mana spells that can fix your draws for the rest of the game. Ensure you hit land drop number 2. And I know Death Shadow Jund has things like Traverse the Ulvenwald to hit a land or Mishra's Bauble to cycle through your deck. But these blue cantrips, while they do always cost 1 mana, unlike Mishra's Bauble, they are significantly more consistent, and you also get the card immediately as soon as you cast it. Which is, if you top deck a Mishra's Bauble and you're about to die that turn for whatever reason, you can't get access to your card immediately, and that can be troublesome in the top deck game. Especially because if you draw on your opponent's upkeep and you draw a creature and you could play that on your turn, it's issues like that can come about sometimes. And of course the next big reason to having Thought Scour is now we get to abuse Tasigur and Gurmag Angler, which are two of the most powerful delve creatures Modern has to offer. And the reason they're so powerful right now, in my opinion, is because Fatal Push is everywhere. And the Death Shadow Jund deck, I'm not saying it, it does not fold to Fatal Push whatsoever, but a few solid removal spells back to back against Death Shadow can easily put it into the top deck game, where you really want to draw, the Kolaghan's Command or the Traverse. And if you don't draw it, it could be rough. The thing is, while these Delve creatures don't necessarily get as big as Tarmogoyf, they have some extra utility. First of all, sometimes being cheaper to cast. I mean, a 1 mana 5/5 versus a 2 mana 5/6 or 6/7 or 7/8. It can make a difference because you get to keep up mana. And we'll get into that now. What do you want to keep mana for? Well, you have removal, you have bolt, you have fatal push. But this is the number 3 reason I would say to be Grixis is stubborn denial. Stubborn denial is so powerful when you have a Death Shadow or a Delve creature out in play. And here's the reason why. A lot of people are going to say, oh, don't play too many Stubborn Denials, it can be a dead card. But if you think about it, if Stubborn Denial is a dead card, it probably means your opponent is either playing a creature-based combo, in which case you have a ton of removal, or they're just playing a regular creature game, in which case we still have a ton of removal, and we usually beat the ground game in terms of the creature fights. So if Stubborn Denial is a dead card, it usually means we're going to win those games anyways. And if Stubborn Denial isn't a dead card, it's just insane against Valakut, against Ad Nauseam, against control decks, against all the removal out there in the format, like Path to Exile, push. You play a Death Shadow, keep up Stubborn Denial, back up, then next turn snap Stubborn Denial. It's those kinds of plays that can be really backbreaking for decks that aren't quite as mana efficient as us. And then that brings us to the mana base. If any of you have also been playing Grixis Death Shadow, I'm opting to cut one of the Bloodstained Mires for another Blood Crypt. I think having more actual mana sources is important because a lot of decks are playing Ghost Quarter, Tectonic Edge lately, and I'm thinking if the games go long, we just want to have more actual sources of mana rather than the fetch lands. But there might be also an argument to cutting the Tarn and putting in Bloodstained Mire. I'm not sure which is more valuable in terms of fetches. I have a feeling Bloodstained Mire is more valuable to the deck, but for right now, we're just doing 4 Tarn, 4 Delta, 3 Bloodstained Mire. Because at the end of the day, we have basic Island, we have basic Swamp, and we don't have basic Mountain. And then getting a basic blue can be important for all our 1 mana cantrips. So that's just the way I look at it. It's a pretty stock list, aside from the basic intro. I'm only running 2 Lightning Bolt right now because I really don't think Lightning Bolt is that great at the moment. And we have some extra removal to bring in from the sideboard if we need effects like that. Usually 4 Fatal Push gets the job done, and we usually end up bolting ourselves anyways, or bolting our opponent to finish off, if we're playing the Delve creature plan. So I'm not too concerned about cutting out on Bolt, but the rest of the list is pretty stock. I'm playing an extra Stubborn Denial compared to most lists. I'm not playing Liliana the Last Hope. I don't think it's where we want to be right now, but I'm not denying that that's not it's a great card, but I feel like it's got to be for the right meta. And I'm just not sure it's impactful right now, impactful enough. I think we can really abuse our cheap 1 mana slot here, and then take over the rest of the game. Taking at the sideboard here, it's a lot of pretty solid cards. I'll go ahead and explain each and every choice. An extra Stubborn, or the last Stubborn Denial, because in the uninteractive matchups, you usually just side out all your Fatal Push, and then you just bring in, Denial, Collective Brutality. It's just these extra cards to help in the sort of uninteractive and sometimes interactive matchups. We have a 1 of Painful Truce as our kind of grindy card. We don't need it, but it can be helpful in the mirror matches or the Jund matchups, where it becomes kind of this battle of card advantage as we trade Fatal Pushes and snaps and sometimes counters and discard and stuff like that. I have a 1 of Temur Battle Rage in the sideboard, again, for the non-interactive decks where we want to kill them dead as fast as possible. Is it Static Caster? It's kind of a counter to opposing Lingering Souls, because Lingering Souls can be quite a problem for this deck. We can counter it with Stubborn Denial, and we can individually kill the tokens with Push and Bolt, but it's very difficult to deal with Lingering Souls, which is why I like to have one answer. And it's not just for Lingering Souls. Of course, Is it Static Caster can be brought in a ton of different matchups. We have 2 Terminate because Bant, Eldrazi, or Eldrazi Tron are both, very solid decks right now. So having 2 pieces of removal that actually hit their creatures versus Fatal Push that maybe you can hit a Thought-Knot Seer. So So that's our game plan there. 3 Fulminator Mage because land decks can still be an issue, especially Ban Eldrazi, Tron. It's important to be able to attack their lands. We have Nile Spellbomb as our graveyard hate. Now, the reason we're going for Nile Spellbomb is because we want to exile entire graveyards at this point in the meta. Grishelbrand is not as huge of a deck right now where we want to pick out specific key cards with Surgical Extraction. At least in my opinion, Dredge, Death Shadow Jund, they rely on their entire graveyard rather than a specific key card. Which is why I like having Nile Spellbomb, and it also cycles, which is nice. And so although it doesn't cost 0 mana and doesn't, we don't lose life like Surgical Extraction does, I think it's just more impactful in general. And then we have another Kolaghan's Command. It's a grindy card. It can also be Artifact Hate. In general, you bring it in a few matchups to help your mid to late game, especially against like deck with a lot of removal and things like that. So that's our sideboard plan. Our main deck, I think it's pretty solid. The only thing I'm not 100% sure on is, should I be playing Liliana the Last Hope? Should I be splashing white for Lingering Souls and stuff like that? I'm not sure. So this is sort of the this is where I would start before you start tuning or playtesting. This is, I would say, the best sort of core for the deck. Maybe -1 Stubborn Nile, +1 Lightning Bolt if you're not as confident about that decision, if you feel like you need one more cheap mana removal or burn. But in general, I think this list will be pretty consistent, service us pretty well, and hopefully for all you Grixis fans, it can, get your fix in and hopefully learn a thing or two during the upcoming Modern Competitive League that I'll be about to enter. Alright, thanks for watching that deck, and stay tuned for the first match. See you soon. Alright, hello everybody, welcome to the first match here with Death Shadow Grixis. Let's take a look at our opener here. Yeah, that's a keep. We have Serum Visions and we have Thoughtseize. We'll probably Thoughtseize turn 1, but we'll see what we're up against. So we'll go ahead and keep. Let's see what our opponent is up to here. Both on 7, so this should be a good game. And this could be a mirror match of some sort. Maybe with Death Shadow Jund, considering they have Bobble. But it could be also Abzan as well. I've seen a little resurgence. Not a resurgence, but it's kind of an uptick of Abzan, Death Shadow. So we'll see. We'll see what our opponent can get going here. I think we definitely have the advantage with our Delve creatures and our Snap Fatal Pushes, but I've also seen some lists, main deck Surgical Extraction. So we'll definitely see. This could be a pretty challenging game to start out with here. Alright. I haven't actually played the mirror. So hopefully I'll do my best to make the optimal plays going forward. Inquisition / Thoughtseize, yeah. Expected. They might take Snapcaster Mage here if they have a Fatal Push, but they also might take Thoughtseize if they're trying to push out something of their own here. At the end of the day, I think we do have the advantage of going long. As we can counter their Kolaghan's Command, and we can counter their Traverses, as well as their Fatal Pushes. But they will be drawing a card on our upkeep, which means that we'll have full information when we cast Thoughtseize. The fact that we also have less discard in our main deck could actually be good if the games go long. Alright, took our Snapcaster Mage. It's probably the smartest pick there, to be honest. Alright, we drew another land. Not really what we want to see considering how many lands we have already. I think what we'll start out here is just Thoughtseize. Want to see what our opponent is working with, because Thoughtseize just gets so much worse as the game progresses and we both just empty our hands. Alright, so they're going... So it looks like this is the Abzan Death Shadow that I was talking about. Lingering Souls could get really challenging later on, but Traverse lets them get, say, a Tarmogoyf or a Death Shadow, and we don't have removal just yet. So while Lingering Souls is going to be a bigger problem later down the road, because let's see, will they get... They don't have Delirium just yet, so they have 3 card types. No instants, anything like that. So we might just want to take Lingering Souls here. Because dealing with 4 tokens could get really troublesome. And even though they'll be able to cast it next turn, I think that is actually the better play, because we can deal with Traverse much better than, like, a Traverse creature than we can deal with Lingering Souls. So I'm going to go ahead and take Lingering Souls there. Let's just pay attention to the revealed cards. Alright, they don't have Delirium yet, so... Alright, no more knowledge about Mishra's Bauble. Go ahead and pop it. Look at the top card of their library. It's probably, the thing with Mishra's Bauble, it's kind of like a mini Scry effect. Do they want to crack their fetch? Looks like they don't, so they probably like what they see. And they drew a Tarmogoyf. It's not bad. Go ahead and draw a card. So we know about Traverse, Bloodstained Mire, and an unknown card. So here we are going to want to go ahead and just crack our fetches, deal as much life as possible to ourselves before we use a card like Serum Visions. We don't want more lands right now, and there's an argument to, dig for a removal spell, but I think if they try to hit us with Death Shadow, then our Death Shadow just, if they try to attack us, then our Death Shadow then just wins the ground game. And because their removal isn't damage based, if they have removal, they've got removal. And we can also look for a removal spell next turn as well. But my guess is here they're going to probably flashback Lingering Souls. Looks like they drew a Swamp. Ooh, Liliana. That's a pretty good draw. Yep. So we still know the contents of their hand here. Let's see. K-Command is not great, but we kind of want to find a way to deal with this Tarmogoyf. As well as not leave ourselves dead to the 2 Lingering Souls tokens in our opponent's graveyard. And if we kill Liliana, that activates Delirium for them. So that's also something to pay attention to. So let's actually think here, because we could just go K-Command, kill Liliana, get back Death Shadow. That makes Tarmogoyf a 5/6. Yeah, that makes Tarmogoyf 5/6. We go down to 3, or we go down to 1. So that's not something I think we can do right now. So let's go ahead and do Serum Visions. We see a Bolt and a Street Wraith. Again, not quite what we're looking for. We really would like to see a Fatal Push. And I don't think we want to lose more life right now. The question is, do we want Bolt to deal with Liliana? So definitely not Street Wraith, I think. This is tough. Bolt deals Liliana, makes Tarmogoyf a 5/6. We would have to take 2, go down to 1, and then those 2 Souls tokens really get us good. So I'm going to go ahead and do it like that. We're kind of hoping that Thought Scour will reveal a we'll get a Fatal Push in the yard for us. Looks like they're shocking. Oh, do they have 4 card types now? Oh man, they had land in hand the whole time. Huh. Okay. So they can go ahead and get another creature here. We're not, you know, dead, but we're pretty close. That Liliana off the top was not, you know, something we could have seen coming. It's something we would have definitely taken with Thoughtseize. Looks like our opponent goes and gets a Death Shadow. Sure. That's pretty interesting. It's just a 2/2. We have 2 of them. Okay. Here we're going to want to Thought Scour ourselves in response just to get some more info on what we want to discard. Looks like there's a Fatal Push in the yard, which is very good for us now. The question is, can we afford to shock ourselves with this land? That way we can go snap, push, plus play a Tasigur. Man, this Liliana, huh? Alternatively, we could go snap, bolt. But then they have those 2 lingering souls. We're going down to 3 here. Snap, bolt. And we're still not technically dead. Oh, we are, because we have to shock. Never mind. Yeah. We need, like... Death Shadow's interesting, but maybe we should have kept that bolt. Yeah, I think they got us this game. Alright, let's go to sideboarding. Don't need to reveal any information. I'm a fan of Painful Truths in this matchup. I don't think we need as many Stubborn Denial. Nile Spellbomb is good. Fulminator Mage is great. Terminates are strong. Bolts are a little weak. I'm going to go ahead and cut them. Is it Staticaster for the Lingering Souls that we talked about? K-Command is pretty strong in the late game. Now let's cut all the Stubborn Denials. Because yes, it can counter Liliana, it can counter some removal spells, but we don't want to go overboard on those. Let's take a look. Do we really need, you know, all of these discard spells? I think we can go ahead and cut the Inquisitions, because like I said, if we end up going into the top deck war, we don't want too many discard spells. Maybe K-Command is just, I mean, it's grindy, but is it too expensive right now? Is that the game we want to play? I mean, our opponent just got the tempo on us, and I'm not sure. Yeah, maybe we don't need all 3. Maybe we don't need all the Terminates, just 1 extra, because, I mean, we have Fatal Push. And this is tough, not gonna lie. There's gonna be a lot more removal in this matchup, so no, I think Street Wraith is important to the decks, you know, running smoothly. Yeah, maybe this isn't the matchup for Painful Truths. Maybe we just want to rely on tempo and rather than card advantage. Alright, we're going to submit this and see if it works. We'll say yes, we'd like to play first. This hand is slow, but we have some pretty good cards, but I think it's just too slow. I'm going to go ahead and mulligan. This one's not that much better, but we're going to go ahead and keep. And let's see, how fast could we get this Tasigur out on the board? 1 fetch, 2 fetch. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's worth it. So because we know our top card, we're just going to keep Street Wraith in hand right now. Yeah, this hand is not looking great. It doesn't feel like we can punish our opponent quite the way we want to. Sure. Our opponent can go ahead and take our Snapcaster Mage, and we can try to run out a Tasigur next turn, I believe. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2 in our fetches. 3, 4 is our mana. 5 is Snapcaster Mage. And 6 is Street Wraith. Yep, so we should be able to. Question is it going to be good enough? I'm not sure. Oh wow, they take the Street Wraith. It's pretty aggressive. I guess Snapcaster Mage doesn't do anything right now. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, wait, maybe we won't have enough without that Street. We should have enough without the Street Wraith, right? Oh no, I was counting Snapcaster Mage. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ouch, we don't actually have enough. Which could mean we're gonna walk straight into a turn 3 Liliana. So let's go ahead and play this fetch and just pass. And see if our opponent follows up with another discard spell, which really punishes our mulligan. Yeah, we just don't have enough to push out Tasigur. We would have really, really wanted to push out Tasigur right now. Alright. Our opponent have a Tarmogoyf. Probably. Yep. And now we really don't want to draw land, so let's go ahead and thin our deck a bit. Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is actually pretty good right now because it lets us see what our opponent is working with, and then we can still push out a Tasigur. Man, our opponent's hand is loaded. Whew. My instinct is to take Liliana. That would get them closer to Traverse, but at this, if we don't take Liliana, then they could just top deck a land. If we take Tarmogoyf, yeah, I think taking Liliana is best here, because that card just wrecks us. Alright. We'll go ahead and shock here. And then we're kind of have a stronger creature on the board right now. One that can also get us card advantage later down the road. But our opponent might just be forced to either play another Tarmogoyf, in which case they can get blown out by a double block, or they can traverse for land in hopes for, right, yeah, there goes our Snapcaster Mage. Oh, and that actually makes Tarmogoyf 4/5, unfortunately. Are they going to traverse here is the question. And this is the point in the game where actually maybe Painful Truths is much more worth it, But we can still activate Tasigur. And we're kind of at a stalemate on the ground here. And we have a decent amount of good draws in our deck at this point. Even Thoughtseize is still really good right now, so I'm not worried too much. Traverse for a land, which makes us feel pretty good, to be honest. It's kind of what we want our opponent to do. And we get a fetch. Unfortunately, we don't want that. So we'll go ahead and play an island, which is what our opponent knows about. And then we will activate Tasker's ability at end of turn. Tarmogoyf is in. So that's one less card that we know about. If they have a Path to Exile here. Jesus. That's very powerful. And 2 Thought Scours. That's exactly what we want to see. Oh, gosh. Yes, we'll use the ability. Yeah, that's just rough. I mean, of course, we can't foresee that our opponent draws a Path to Exile, but it happens sometimes. Fatal Push is a good start. We're still kind of dead, though. So let's go ahead and Thought Scour ourselves. Death's Shadow. That's a pretty solid draw. Let's go ahead and play it out. We know about Lingering Souls. The thing is, like, Death's Shadow gets hit by so much of their removal. So the thing is, I want them to attack with both, because then we can kind of blow them out with Fatal Push and that. And they'll still have Lingering Souls to kind of rebuild. But then we're in a much, much better position, I would say. Especially once we get these 2 clocks off the board. And my guess is, of course, they probably don't have a removal spell, or they would have definitely popped it off. And they don't even have double black here, which is good for us. So cards like Liliana are off the table at the moment. Ah, no attacks. Lingering Souls. I think we just have to say okay to that, of course. Thoughtseize. Does Thoughtseize kill us? We get hit by 2 in the air. Like, I want to attack here, ideally. But if I attack, they can literally just say, no blocks, kill me on the backswing. So we're just going to go ahead and stay on defense here. Mishra's Bauble, sure. Target me. They want to see what I'm drawing next turn. Now Tarmogoyf is a 6/7. Just the 2 tokens attacking. See, if we Fatal Push one of those, that means we're not 100% dead to the flashback. But if we Fatal Push that, then we're probably dead to the Tarmogoyfs. So it's kind of not an easy position. But our opponent definitely played it correctly here. I think Fatal Pushing them is correct, though, considering the current board state. Yep. Opponent draws a card, and they see a fetch land on top, and they got us here. So Lingering Souls is definitely a backbreaker in the mirror matches, which is why I wanted to have that Is It Static Caster in the sideboard. I thought about that, but we didn't draw it, and we kind of flooded a bit and mulliganed. So yeah, I think we should have been pretty well positioned considering all our recursion and delve creatures. But sometimes you just don't get there, and Tarmogoyf is Tarmogoyf, and Lingering Souls are Lingering Souls. Alright, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next round.